job in the NBA some 9 months after getting cut by the Rockets just 10 games into last season. Well, Melo is now out campaigning for work, showing up for a wide-ranging interview with Stephen A. Smith on First Take this morning, where he talked about this past season and how it affected him, saying, quote, "I felt like I loved the game more than the game loved me at that particular time. Now I love the game too much to be away from it. Now I got a new life about me. It took me a while to get out of that situation emotionally." Again, gentlemen, I was thoroughly impressed with Carmelo Anthony. Left that interview feeling like if my Pacers, if Miami Heat, or even the Golden State Warriors should make a play for Carmelo Anthony, I think he's in the right mindset.
He's certainly in the right mindset. I don't think this interview did him any justice in terms of his efforts to get back in the league. I don't. One, let's just start where we come from as athletes, as all who cover the sport. In purity, sports is a meritocracy. In purity, it's supposed to be. We know we've kind of morphed from that. We know we've kind of, between media, journalism, coverage, access, athletes, brands, everything, it's not just how good you are. And so we know that when we get drafted. We know that it's not just a talent-driven choice. There's also other variables. So the way you come in is also going to be the way you go out. It's not just going to be talent. Is Carmelo buckets? Should Carmelo be in the league right now? Absolutely. I feel so, based on production, based on what he can do, depending on role. The problem is, game recognizes game in terms of talent, but when you have to remind the game that you still have it, I've never seen a guy get that grip back on the sport and his opportunity once it's slipped. Des Bryant comes to mind. Many guys come to mind when you think about once they start writing the story about you beyond your production. And as Carmelo even said, it's deeper than basketball. Once we get out of that lane of just Carmelo being a great player or a good player at his age, and we start talking about these other variables, I think it's impossible to remind the sport and the GMs that you get another chance. So this won't help him and service him.
I don't think it helps him nearly as much as you do, Jason. First of all, I spent time with Carmelo Anthony. He's a great guy. Everybody likes Carmelo Anthony. As a person, he's a good dude to hang, sprite, and he's somebody who has a lot of interesting thoughts to share with the world, not just about sports, but also he's really into filmmaking as well. But he called out Daryl Morey, and he never had an open conversation with James Harden. He basically went to Chris Paul and said, "Why am I getting cut? Did you do this?" So he put it all on Daryl Morey. Well, like, Daryl Morey's a GM. He's got GM friends, and he's running out of teams to pick him up. Additionally, you're right. It's not a meritocracy.
Daryl Morey, I got no problem with anybody calling Daryl Morey out, but continue.
Okay, I mean,
I know he's part of a little analytics clique.
No, listen. I don't think he's perfect. I'm just saying it's kind of like what Marcel's talking about. It's about more than basketball.
Yeah.
No.
You know, GMs talk, and he's like, oh. He also called out Oklahoma City and didn't like his role there. Like, okay, so where do you like your role?
Well, but Doug, help me out there, because I watched the whole deal. He did not call anybody out in a vicious way.
No.
He took the high road, and he put out his side of the story, but he harmed no one.
No, but he did question, hey, Daryl Morey, he made Daryl Morey seem very cold-blooded and walking in and saying...
As a general manager, that's a good look, but continue.
I agree, but I don't know how that translates into the general manager world. Additionally, like, look, posting videos on one-on-cone and shooting jump shots, like, look, dude, there's a trend.
Love it. He's desperate.
Yeah, but he's not.
Love it.
But,
Yes,
that's not what he said. He didn't say, I'll play anywhere. I'll take any role. I will buy in. He didn't. He can talk all he wants about I finally accepted coming off the bench. It was really hard for me. Hey, dude, can you go from being Melo, 20 shots a game, 30 points a night, to, hey, man, we might need you 5 minutes a night, and we need you to wave that towel, and we need you to smack butts when they come over. We need you to be the trend in the NBA.
What I heard from
is
Melo,
culture, and he doesn't bring something to the culture.
Melo was a guy you could sit and have that conversation with, and he would be open to it. So bring it to, because I think he thinks his reputation precedes him. And I think he acknowledged during this interview that he wasn't in the right place mentally. He needed his ego chopped down, and it has been. And I'm just telling you, I heard a human being like, oh, yeah, this is someone I can reason with. Again, will he be perfect? Absolutely not. No one is. But he's in a much better mental space than he was previously. And I think where he was mentally was the only justification for keeping him out of the league. The guy can get a second unit buckets and give you 5 or 6 good minutes while your starter's resting it out. And there's so much desperation in this league right now because of the equality that you can't tell me. A GM would be an idiot not to say, man, I wonder if I can get 15 minutes out of Carmelo and help me be that 1% advantage to get me past somebody in the playoffs.
Okay, there's 2 different elements to it. Okay, first, not all the teams in the league are trying to win. We agree, right?
No, yeah,
So
I know.
those
the
teams,
ones that are.
So so you got to cut off like 10 of those teams, maybe 12 of those teams. They ain't trying to win. They play young players. They play young players, right?
Yeah.
So now what are we down to with teams? Okay, there's 30 NBA teams, and now we're down to 15, 16, and he's already played for 4 or 5. They're all out. Okay? Then you have one of his closest friends is LeBron James, who had a chance to bring him into Cleveland. No thanks. Had a chance all season and all offseason to bring him into LA.
Then.
Huh?
He was in the wrong mindset.
No, he's not. LeBron knows that it
was
doesn't.
in the wrong
Everybody
mindset
loves to hang out with Carmelo Anthony. No one wants to play with Carmelo Anthony.
I get it. I get it. But you can't tell me this dude can't get buckets. And I'm just telling you, I watched this interaction. I was very impressed all the way around.
And I think that's the contradiction. I always defend Carmelo Anthony. We talked about it yesterday. We went into the commercial break still arguing about it. Carmelo Anthony in a meritocracy, which sports maybe used to be yesteryear, deserves to be in the NBA. But once storyline, once narrative, once reputation, once these GMs and their relationships start to be a part of that equation, it gets blurry. And coaches used to always remind us in the locker room, this is not a birthright, y'all. It's a privilege. And as soon as you lose sight of that privilege, guess what? It's going to be hell to pay to get back to this place. And there's a flow, there's a current, as we all know as a player, that you have to stay in it. You got to stay with it. Professional athlete. It's not the best athlete. If it was best athlete, they would go to my neighborhood and grab 5 other guys who were better, stronger, faster. But they grabbed the guys who stayed in alignment with that flow, that current. Once you get out of it, good luck trying to swim against it. Good luck trying to get back into it. And that's what I'm saying. I have not seen examples of a guy who goes out with a testimonial and gets his career back. And it's unfortunate, but it's
He's
real.
not trying to get his career back, though, to what you're saying. He's trying to just get back in the league.
He wants back in the league and to play basketball, and I believe him.
That's his career.
And again, dude, this to me sounded like someone who's really benefited from some therapy.
Oh, yeah.
And some self-reflection and has a level of self-awareness and that I think is rare for people that have made $250 million just from basketball. The guy's probably made another $100 million elsewhere. To have that kind of self-awareness and to be able to go on and sit down with Stephen A. Smith, who also, Stephen A., awesome job with the interview. But to sit down with him and carry that for an hour, and because Stephen A. was probing him and hitting him with some tough questions, he handled it all. It's everything I would want to hear from Carmelo at this point. And I'm just telling you, things are so close in the NBA, there will be a GM. There will be a coach like, oh, Carmelo might be ready to take these 12 minutes I got to offer.
Oh, he played for the Thunder. They wanted nothing.
I was the Golden State Warriors.
They wanted
me. He's in a different place, Doug. I mean, he's not the same guy.
Everybody's in a different place when they don't have a job and they get the job and they go back to being the same mellow they've always been.
Sometimes is what has to happen.
He still went.
You can't talk your way back into this. And look, I think
he talked his way out of it, in my opinion.
No. We don't know what those actions were that went with that talk. We know the story of it, but we don't know the actions and the day-to-day interactions. Here's the thing. Phil Jackson said it. I think a lot of GMs and coaches subscribe to it. There's nothing more difficult than coaching a superstar that is aging.
Yeah.
Now, this is a superstar that is aged. And I don't know if it's impossible, but coach is going to look, what's in the draft? What's on the chopping block? Who's going to be out there without the ego, without the reputation that can give me half the production?
Let me ask y'all this.
That's what they're going to do.
How were the Rockets damaged by bringing him in?
They weren't.
They weren't. Because, again, and you got to understand, you're not going to have to pay him much.
Right.
You can get rid of him easy. And I'm just telling anybody watching this interview, I'm sorry, you got to be impressed with this dude. And you have to.
Definitely.
Why not bring him in? We can dust him if it doesn't work. It didn't hurt the Rockets. They were still right there in the Western Conference Finals. So there's no downside.
Well, it did hurt them. They started slow.
They did not get off to it. Now, they didn't get off to a good start because James Harden wasn't healthy,
Right.
in fairness. But, like, look, to be a... I don't think people understand. This is like the conversation of Kaepernick as a backup quarterback in the NFL.
He's in a total different mental space than Kaepernick.
Well, I would agree based upon the fact we haven't heard from Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
We haven't seen him. We haven't heard from him. But it's the idea of to be a backup quarterback. Like the reason Matt Schaub, I didn't even know till last night he was still in the league. It's because that job is specifically to get the starter ready. You have to totally change. And to be a bench player in the NBA, you don't just have to come in and get buckets. Like, look, he's going to have to play the 4. He never wanted to play the 4. He's going to have to switch on ball screens and guard somebody. Can't guard anybody. He's a mid-range. Like, his game is also something from the early 2000s. It doesn't fit with today. And so while if it's in a pickup game, is he a better player than most NBA players? Yeah. But Bruce Bowen, we used to play pickup ball with him at Cal State Fullerton, and he wasn't one of the 3 best players in the court. But in an NBA game, he did exactly what he was supposed to do.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. You're forced to. Yeah, this week I spent $4,000 and had a Stairmaster put in my apartment. And this morning I was on it for 20 minutes. I didn't want to do it. The old me would have never did it.
No, you need a discount code next time. How at your boy, man?
Oh, that dude, he knows everybody.
Big Ben says he loves football again.
You go back to the
key
league?
word there is again.
OG.
We'll tell you what it all means.
Man, they saw you coming.